Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Heidi, and today we are talking about some fun social media stories, and it would not be a social media story or social media episode without talking about a Kardashian, because we just can't get away from them. We always have to keep up with them. We can't escape it. Social media is full of the Kardashians, and man, Twitter loves Kim. Really, it loves Kim and Kanye, I have to say, because there is a interesting tweet out there. It's actually kind of sweet. I don't hate the Wests. Sometimes I think they can be kind of annoying. I think Kim and Kanye separately can be kind of annoying, and then combined, they can also be sort of annoying. But you know, I think this is kind of a cute story. I think it's nice. It's nice for them to have. This is about a tweet that Kim tweeted regarding her juicy tracksuit. Yes, we all remember the juicy tracksuits. Matching pants, matching top, and it was probably rhinestones were somewhere, and if they weren't on your tracksuit, they were definitely on your cell phone. You might have had like the cell phone case that was like the Baby Fat brand, and then there was like rhinestones somewhere else that you had bedazzled in your bedroom. Anyway, great times. So what went on with this story is Kim replied to a fan's tweet that was shared, and she then shared a backstory about her 2000s Juicy Couture tracksuit. And it's cute. It's about her and Kanye, so it's nice to share. What happened is a fan tweeted Kim a picture of Kim wearing a bright pink, velvet tracksuit that of course was very popular. And then it also included a multicolor Louis Vuitton bag. So Kim was like all 2000s, all decked out. Like this outfit, it just represents early 2000s fashion. Also, like, of course, a fan brought to Kim's attention because it is so 2000s. And Kim had a pretty nice response. What the fan tweeted, she tweeted was, "I'd love to see Kim bring back Juicy Couture sweatsuits and that Louis Vuitton multicolor bag." Then Kim responded, "Fun fact, in this pic, I was on my way to meet Kanye for his Good Life performance for the MTV Awards. I didn't really know him, but his people called my people, LOL, and I was a girl in the audience of the live performance in Vegas. I met his mom, Donda, this same night." So she tweeted her backstory in response to what this fan posted in this picture. And it can be like a downside for celebrities that there's paparazzi everywhere recording their every move. But because of the fact that cameras are everywhere, they captured this moment when Kim was on her way to meet the man who would become her husband. So that's kind of cute. She has a picture, thanks to the paparazzi, of when she was going to first meet Kanye and apparently his mom. Even though we're not sure if we can see her in the audience, because this was a performance for the VMAs, so it was filmed. It's also now posted on YouTube so that we can all see. We can see and debate whether like there's a girl who's kind of on the left at like 12 seconds. You're like, is that Kim? It's hard to say. She's like sort of wearing pink but it's blurry, but she has like dark hair, so you're not quite sure. So if you want to look at the video yourself, You can look up the MTV Awards. It's when Kanye performs Good Life. I don't know. It's hard to say. People have debated whether it's actually Kim Kardashian in that picture. Again, it's not like 12 seconds on the video. But even if it's not her in the video, it is like really her in that paparazzi picture. So it's pretty cool that she has a picture documenting the history of their relationship, or the start of their relationship. Also, fun fact, as I know, the late Steve Irwin and his wife, Terry Irwin, have a picture right after they met, because Terry went to the zoo and saw one of Steve Irwin's shows, where he would like feed the crocodiles and be on the mic and talk about crocodiles and how great they are. She went to meet Steve Irwin right after the show because she loved the show. She was so impressed. And then right when she met him, her friend was like, oh, wait, turn around, and then took a picture of them. So she actually also has a picture of when she first met her husband, or first met the man who would become her husband, which is also sweet. And God rest his soul. I love Steve Irwin. I grew up watching him. So this story made me think of them and made me a little sad. Also, to bring it back to Kim before I start crying, Kim said in a later tweet that she still has the tracksuit and the purse, and that she might try and bring it back, which she could. Her tweet came in a PS, said, P.S. I still have this sweatsuit and this bag. I mean, whatever happens, maybe the tracksuit just becomes, a relic of some kind of the past fashion mistakes that we all made. But it is pretty cool that she has a picture, and I'm sure that, maybe one day she'll show it to her kids and talk about, I don't know, how that's when she first met her dad and then met their dad, and then all of her kids will respond that they don't care and then just grab their phones and go on their phones like children do. And of course, because I'd mentioned in a past social media story that Kim and Kanye are going to be expecting their fourth child via surrogates. So, I mean, they're going to have lots of kids to show this picture to. And, I mean, that's kind of cute. Glad that Kim has a picture like that. I think it's adorable. Moving on to our next story. This is about Macaulay Culkin. We all know Macaulay Culkin, Home Alone star, child actor. Now he just always looks like he's on drugs, which he may or may not be. I'm not sure. He hasn't been in a bunch lately, but I did see a very funny commercial with him in it. I think it was for home insurance. It was very funny. I highly suggest it. You could find it just by typing into Google, like Macaulay Culkin commercial or something. It's very funny. Anyway, this is about Macaulay Culkin because he had no clue why his brother was at the Golden Globes. I also did not know that he had a younger brother who was also into acting, but he does. Macaulay Culkin's brother is Kieran Culkin. So interesting. Macaulay and Kieran. Kieran Culkin. Anyway, interesting name. I always have that sound, the k sound. Anyway, okay, so Kieran Culkin, he was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor in a TV series for his work in the show Succession. I have not heard of this show. Maybe I should watch it. And Macaulay Culkin didn't necessarily cheer on his brother. He was really just a troll. And I mean, Macaulay Culkin, like I had said, kind of just always looks like to me he's on drugs. But he apparently just always acts kind of like a punk, which is evidenced by this Twitter shenanigans, these Twitter stories. So what Macaulay Culkin first tweeted to start this off, he said, "Oh crap," except he said a different word. "My brother's at the Golden Globes. This is so cool." So he didn't know. He did not know that his brother's at the Golden Globes. He then proceeded to make sure he got some really good pictures of Kieran on TV. And then he posted a picture, and it's an interview with Henry Winkler, and then in the background on the red carpet you can just pick out Kieran's face. And then Macaulay Culkin tweeted with that photo, "Oh my god, there he is, hi bro." Yeah, that's not your brother, that's the Fonz. But also apparently he was pretty impressed by how close his brother was sitting to some really big celebrities. He continued up this Twitter feed. He tweeted, "Whoa, Kieran has such good seats. Dude, ask Gaga why she isn't following me on Twitter." He's just using his brother. He continued, and it took him really like 2 hours to realize that Macaulay was at the Golden Globes for a legit reason. He said, holy crap, again, he used a different word. Kieran is nominated. What is Succession? Man, I should really answer his calls more often. Thanksgiving is going to be real awkward this year. Thanksgiving. Was that like the only time you see your brother? Anyway, so he realized that his brother was nominated. He did not know what show it is. I mean, I'm sure he probably did and is just trolling, but that just makes us all the funnier. Also, after finding out that Kieran was nominated, he still didn't really have a compliment waiting for his brother. He just said, "This show is rigged. I was totally pulling for Winkler." In parentheses, no one tell Kieran he didn't win. So, good job, Kieran. Good job, Macaulay. Way to cheer on your brother. And good job, Kieran, for going to the Golden Globes. That's impressive. I should maybe check out that show. Also, apparently, Macaulay Culkin did not decide to keep watching the Golden Globes because then he continued on saying, F it, Alvin and the Chipmunks is on Nickelodeon right now. I'm going to watch that. So, apparently just seeing his brother and apparently Henry Winkler lose was just enough for him. He threw in the towel, decided to go watch some classic Alvin and the Chipmunks. Anyway, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll be back and keep talking about some more social media news.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Welcome back to the Social Media News Podcast. We are continuing with our social media news stories. This next one is not necessarily a story that was found on social media or has to do with like Twitter, tweet convos, or I don't know what they're called on Twitter, like threads. But this is actually about some of your data on your phone. So when you're using, Instagram, when you're shopping online, when you're on Facebook, when you're on Facebook and you might accidentally click on an ad, or maybe you purposefully click on an ad, all of those kinds of things get translated into cell phone data. And that is what we're talking about in this story. Senators are calling for an investigation of T-Mobile, Sprint, Verizon, and AT&T for selling location data. So, people are selling your location data. I'm sorry to tell you, but they are. Several lawmakers are demanding that the Federal Communications Commission investigate companies like T-Mobile, AT&T, Sprint, and Verizon after a motherboard is like a news outlet, and they broke this story. After a motherboard story revealed that major mobile carriers were still selling customer location data to third parties, which would then offer the sensitive information to shady buyers. Shady buyers are, that's their words, that's what they put. I have not looked into all of the people that our data is being sold to. But like I said earlier, like data is like your phone is collecting it, no matter what you're doing on your phone, ads, what apps you're using. And it also is selling your location because your cell phone can find out where you are at basically all times. To concentrate on this more, your phone can just tell where your whereabouts are because cell towers and GPS and all of that data provide nearly pinpoint accuracy of your every move. And this is why law enforcement can rely on it to build cases or to find someone. And all this data is available. Privacy issues have affected tech giants such as Google and Facebook, but you can opt out of those platforms. if you decide to not use Facebook, not use Google. With phone location data tracking, though, there aren't many options for opting out of tracking other than not having a cell phone to begin with, which, of course, probably no one's going to do. Even my grandmother had a cell phone. It was not a smartphone, but she had one. She didn't even have a computer, but she had a cell phone. Mobile carriers have been selling location data linked to a person's phone number, even though major carriers said like 7 months ago they were ending this. But this is what this article that came out. The article came out on Tuesday, which would be January 8th. This article said that they're still doing it. They're still selling this location data, even though they said they were going to stop. Several senators and an FCC commissioner, FCC, again, is Federal Communication Commission, now want an investigation. And this quote says, "It's not that people don't care about privacy, as some have argued. It's that customers, along with policymakers, have been kept in the dark for years about data collection and commercialization practices." And that's from Senator Mark Warner, who is from Virginia. And he called on legislation to ensure that companies were upfront with customers about how their data is being used and sold. Multiple lawmakers have drafted policy legislation, and that includes Senator Ron Wyden, who is a Democrat from Oregon. His bill, which was introduced in November, would include a do not track database, allowing Americans to opt out of data tracking. So, I mean, I don't know. I think that's pretty good to have the opportunity to opt out of data tracking. Like, there are some apps that, like, they'll say, like, oh, basically, like, do you want this app running even when it's not open? Which is, that means it's still collecting data. Like, I'm trying to think of an example. Like, if you have, like a Target app, like the Target cart or whatever it is, like shopping cart, I don't know. It has a shopping cart on the app. If you have that, a lot of times it will be tracking your movements and tracking what you do even when the app is not open. So like Target can tell when you're inside a Target store, for example, and it can do that based off of like Wi-Fi. Like if you're logging into certain Wi-Fis, like if you log into the Target Wi-Fi, it knows that you're at a Target, and then it can like send you push notifications, for example. And there are other apps that say like, oh, do you want to use your location, etc. There are lots of apps that use your phone data collection, even if you're not necessarily using the app at the time. But this is talking about not just like apps using your location, but just your phone's location in general, which is used to pinpoint you, being sold to other companies. So that's crazy. And again, Senator Ron Wyden initially requested an FCC investigation last spring when the sale of phone location data was first revealed. At the time, the FCC said it was investigating LocationSmart, which is a company that provided geolocation data on nearly any phone in the U.S. Any phone in the U.S. That is crazy. While location data from your phone can be used for legitimate purposes like emergency roadside assistance, finding your lost cell phone, that data is often sold to data aggregators, that use the information for purposes outside of your control. The company T-Mobile noted that it didn't have a relationship with location aggregator Microbuilt, which provided location data, which indirectly provided location data to Motherboard, again, that news site, through a series of handoffs. But it did have a relationship with, again, a location aggregator, and this one's called Zoomigo. And that's according to this article that came out, because then Motherboard said Zoomigo gave that location to Microbuilt without notifying the tracked person. So even though T-Mobile is saying, well, we're not giving data to this big company, Microbuilt, they gave it to another company, and then that company gave it to Microbuilt. And they're not notifying the tracked person. So people aren't aware of how their location information is being handed off and traded, basically. And then let's see. This quote comes from Senator Kamala Harris, who's a Democrat from California. She said, The American people have an absolute right to the policy of their data, which is why I'm extraordinarily troubled by reports of the system of repacking and reselling location data to unregulated third-party services for potentially nefarious purposes. Also, Jessica Rosen-Worcel, who is an FCC commissioner, said in a tweet that the agency needs to investigate STAT. This is very strange to me and scary, to be honest, because we don't know what these companies are doing with our data. And we can't always know which companies have our data, because maybe we know that, maybe you have a T-Mobile phone. Maybe you know that T-Mobile has your location. That would make sense. They could easily do that. Like you've seen a lot of criminal cases. That's how the police can locate criminals, because of cell phone location data, which the cell phone companies they have access to. But then we don't know necessarily who they're selling that information to, and then what those companies are doing with our sold information. I mean, a lot of times advertisers will use our data to then sell us more things. And I know that because I can see the advertisements come up and I'm like, oh, one time I searched this thing and now they have my data and they want to, sell me this other thing again from the same company or something. But we don't know how our location data is being used. T-Mobile CEO John Legere, who originally promised that his company would stop selling customer location in June, set a new deadline, and he tweeted that the practice would end this March. Also, the delay apparently is to make sure that customers who use the data for safety services aren't hurt by the changes. I can assume safety services is like roadside assistance, maybe? I don't know. And then AT&T said that it cut off access to microbuilt and was continuing to end partnerships with other location data aggregators. And then an AT&T spokesman said, "We only permit sharing of location when a customer gives permission for cases like fraud prevention or emergency roadside assistance, or when required by law." Also, none of the companies have clarified how customers were giving consent to their data to be sold to third parties, or how much the customers were selling that data for. So the companies that you're already paying a pretty big bill to, I mean, let's be honest, a large part of your money is going to AT&T. We don't even know how much they're profiting off of your data. They're just, not to be really bleak, but they're basically just using us to make extra money. It sounds like they're doing a side hustle. They're are providing these services for us, cell phone services and whatnot, but then they're profiting off of, our use of their product and selling it to someone else without us knowing, without our permission, and then profiting off of it. So, I don't know. They can't clarify how we're giving consent for this, because we're not giving consent for this. I don't think anyone's yeah, sure, let's a bunch of other companies know where I am at all times. That's very, Big Brother-esque. And I don't want that. I don't feel comfortable with all these companies knowing where I am at all times. Why do they need to know? I don't know. I don't like that. I don't like the idea that that's going on. And I can't tell you that I know why these companies want our location data, but it sounds nefarious to me. So, I don't know. Scary news, scary times. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back and continue talking about more social media news stories.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the Social Media News Podcast. We are continuing to talk about social media news stories. This next one is another social media story that I saw in the wild, you could say. I just stumbled upon it. I wasn't looking for it, but it really stuck out to me, and it's touching. I've shared a few stories this episode that I think are kind of sweet, but this one is, and this is really, I feel like, uplifting news of people restoring your faith in humanity, as many say. And it makes me feel good about the people out there, especially the people who are our bus drivers. Because this story is about a bus driver who basically rescued a baby. So this is adorable. This happened in Milwaukee. And Milwaukee County Transit System driver Irene Evick spotted a young boy wearing only a red onesie and no shoes running down the sidewalk at 8 a.m. on December 22nd, 2018. Surveillance video from the bus shows Evick's view of the baby as he ran over a freeway overpass. The security camera also captured Irene's shocked and terrified reaction when she saw this boy. The temperature apparently was below freezing, and she knew that she had to stop her bus and save the boy, who was apparently less than 1 year old. Also below freezing. Man, Milwaukee's got it rough. I don't think I could survive that. And you can see this is all captured on the bus surveillance video. So I think it's good that buses have surveillance video anyway. I think that's important. But this is also great because then we get to see this really heartwarming story. So what happened is she stops her bus and she ran outside, ran across the highway, and then grabbed the boy and then carried him back into the bus. And then the footage also shows the inside of the bus. It shows a concerned passenger waiting by the door. And then when Irene returned with the boy in her arms, the camera shows that she says, "I'm shaking." And then the passenger said, "Oh, I am too." And they look very distraught because why would, again, a barefoot under 1 year old toddler be running around outside in below freezing? Also 8 a.m. I don't know what's going on. But then you see on the camera surveillance that another passenger brought up her jacket to the front of the bus to wrap up the little boy and keep him warm. And it was unclear how long the boy had been alone outside. But then they waited for authorities to respond and come find the boy. And then while they were waiting, Irene just held the little kid with wrapped up in the jacket, and he fell asleep in her arms, which is really cute. The video also shows her lightly kissing him on the head and letting him know that everything was okay. What a nice lady. This restores faith in humanity. This is these are the people who should be driving our public transit. The people who are caring and who go out of their way to help children and to help other people. Because when you're on the bus, I feel like you always need help. You don't know what stop to get off at. So many times I don't have I guess this is a vulnerable reveal time, but I don't always have the correct change for the bus, and every once in a while I'll give a bus driver that nervous look I only have 3 quarters, not 4, and they'll be like, "It's fine, just go." And I'm "Oh, thank you." So you need these type of people to drive your bus who are caring, but then also resolute enough to go outside in the freezing cold Milwaukee weather and go and grab a escaped child, or we'll find out that he's not really escaped. Anyway, to continue with the story, firefighters and police arrived on the scene. So they came, Irene was still on the bus. So she was still on the bus holding the boy in the jacket who was asleep. And then they arrived on the scene, and the police said that the boy's mother had left him outside. So that's terrible. And then officers apparently reunited the toddler with his father, so not with his mother. So I don't know what's going on with that. Also, I would really hope that they're investigating that, and that they're investigating also following up, maybe social workers or someone like that, following up with the father as well to make sure the boy's still okay, because that's really sad. And Irene Evick said she was grateful she could keep the boy safe. And thanks to her quick thinking, he was kept out of harm's way, because he was running over a freeway overpass. It was 8 in the morning, so I'm sure there was transit traffic, everyone getting to work, and who knows, he could have wandered onto the freeway, he could have come across dangerous people. I don't know. I'm really glad, again, that just someone like this is looking out for others. And you see her, she immediately stopped the bus and she ran across that freeway overpass with other cars that were like oncoming. She ran across it to grab him. So I'm so glad. This is a heartwarming story, despite the sad circumstance of why this toddler was out. It is really uplifting to hear that she tried her best. So I'm really glad. And again, that's it for our show. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you can tune in to our next social media news podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.